Hi, welcome to the Retirement Railroad Matinee Modeling Tip of the Day. I'm Steve, and today is part 13 in building Aurora. And what we're going to do, talk about it in part 12, is this building right here. It's one that I got at the last train show I went to, and it's cheap, $7 or something like that, pre-made. And it's called a background building, and which makes it about 2 inches, 2 to 3 inches, 2.5 inches wide. And it's a little too wide to go up against the backdrop there in Aurora. It restricts where the track I want in the streets go. So what we're going to do today is we're going to cut this down. We're going to take an inch off it. All right. And once we do that, as you notice, the backside has been painted all black. Well, we're going to put a wire brush into my Dremel, and we'll use this to strip away some of this paint on this window glazing, which will leave us with a dirty window effect. And then we'll add lighting and have it ready to go. So with that, stay tuned. We'll switch camera angle. We'll get right after it. All right, so let's get it marked up. Give us a line to cut by here. All right, let's go back over the layout and give it a test fit. All right, you can now see, once I move all the stuff out of the way, that we now have room for that track to run down that street. Okay. And it'll have to angle back again here. Right. So the next set of buildings have to be set back a little bit further. And I'll show you how we do that in the next part of building Aurora. So with that, let's go ahead and we'll take this and take it out to the belt sander and give it a light buff to even this all out before we move on to the next step. So, all right. So now that we have it cut back, trimmed, have the edges sanded down evenly, now it's time to take care of this window glazing. All right. So I've got the windows I want cleaned up. In other words, I stripped the paint that was on them off, not so that it's totally off. It still has an appearance, looks dirty. From the outside, when lit, it'll give the illusion of shadows. So, and what I've also done, I mentioned I've truncated it down. Now it's only about 1.5 inches thick. As you can see, I've added these 2 strips of masonite. Okay. And that is to apply the copper bus line tape to solder the light leads and the power lead up to the building, so that I don't melt the plastic of the building if I just apply this straight to the plastic. Now to put this masonite on, I simply use the same thing I use to do track work. I use this a lot for everything. It's DAP Quick Seal Ultra. All right, and this is the clear. Okay, this is the clear. So another important note or tip is if you clean up, if you're going to make where some of the glass or windows have light coming through, if you're making ones on the end do that, and there's windows on the sides, please, please, please make sure you clean up the side windows adjoining the ones that are clean onto next to them. Otherwise, it's going to look kind of funky. That looking from the outside, this area here is lit up, but then if you look from the side, it's not. All right, so make sure you clean up correspondingly. As an example, these are not cleaned up, so the corresponding corners to these are not cleaned up. Okay. So, with that, stay tuned, and I'll get the light leads and so forth wired in, and then we can put it back on it. She'll be ready to go. All right, so we got the copper buses in. We got 2 LEDs soldered on. We've got the male RCA plug lead soldered on. We've got the female RCA ready to be soldered to the bus over on the layout. So let's get that done, then we'll try it out. All right, so now that we have that building truncated down and made thinner and lit up, okay, and connected, now we can move on to the last 2, or maybe 1, I haven't decided, buildings that'll be to the right of there. Now notice the brewery is off the layout right now. That's so I had room to work back there on this one. So with that, let us take a look at and dig out some of our spare parts, shall we? Behind me here in that cabinet is where I have a few boxes with spare parts, spare building parts, kits. And so let's go over there and dig through them and see what we can come up with. All right, so we've got all of this stuff to choose from. So here we are on the bench, and here's the idea I have for most of the space. To take these 2 panels that were part of the expansion kits for the roundhouse, and I'm going to shave off these ends, and then I'm going to place them together so that we have a pitched roof style building, warehouse, etc. So I'm going to take it out to this. This is a perfect opportunity to use the scroll saw out in the garage, and stay tuned. I'll be right back. All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm using the latex caulk method, white quick seal, to do the mortar lines. Rick Bailey at Fultz Bailey Model Railroad brought it up on one of his streams, and I tried it out on the brewery, but the brewery's brickwork was so ornate. It didn't work very well. There are too many cracks and crevices to try to get cleaned out. But this is more perfect. Now there are some crevices that I have to come back with a X-Acto and just kind of scrape away. But you can see the difference. All right, non-treated to treated. Okay. And how it's done, or at least how I do it, is I just get some on my fingers, all right, and spread it around, and put it on heavy, because you're going to end up rubbing it off. And I just like to do one little panel at a time. All right, now you got to work it into those cracks and crevices. Once you have it worked into all the cracks and crevices, that's when you get the paper towel out. And you start rubbing it away. All right, so we now have our two background buildings made out of spare parts. Zoom up, take a look at them. All right, we've got a long pitched roof warehouse style building back here, and the Burlington route converted shops to office building right here. Okay? Now they will eventually get lights, but they will be permanently mounted to this baseboard, unlike everything else, right? Because they're so thin, it'll keep them from tipping over and such. So the next step is I'm going to pull everything off. I've got the buildings all marked. I've got where the streetlights go marked. I've got to get ready to add the sensors. I've got where the track is going to go marked. And we'll take all this off and take the baseboard out to the garage and work on the rest of the scene. So with that, I want to thank you for joining me here at the Retirement Railroad, Matinee Modeling Tip of the Day. I'm Steve, and stay tuned for the next in our series of Building Aurora. Bye now.